Whether you like it or not, people are calling it a personal brand now. It's your reputation. We can cringe all day long, but every single one of us has a personal brand. It's what people think of when they think of you. Do they open your email when they see your name in your inbox? Do they hire you? Do they think of you when they think of something that you're an expert on? So you already have it. By choosing not to build it and nurture it, you're letting the market decide, and they're not going to just all of a sudden prop you up as an expert.
All right, hello and welcome. I'm really looking forward to this episode. I'm joined today by Amanda Russell from Austin, Texas. I was lucky enough to catch up in person with Amanda probably like 6 months ago now. It's just flown by. But Amanda and I have sort of been bouncing in and out of each other's inboxes for a couple of years before that. And she's had a fascinating career and is one of the authorities when it comes to influence. And given that I think that is one of the most important things that anyone with ambition can be looking to understand and utilize, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get Amanda on here and share some of her insights. So for those that don't know, you've had kind of a very interesting background. Do you want to give us a quick snapshot of your background and then how you kind of got into this, and then we can get into influence.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. And Callum, you're very humble, but I think the story behind meeting you was I read your progressive partnerships book, and when I read it, I immediately was like, "Who wrote this? This just they get it. They get the whole. This is influence. This is how the world works." And I reached out. I started following. Basically a lot of the work that you have been doing and the content you put out there, and I'm just really impressed. So when you happened to be coming to Austin, and we finally got to meet, so that was really cool. Now for my background, it sounds like I was a jack of all trades, master of none. If I'm gonna observe from an outsider perspective, and so yes, my name is Amanda Russell, and to be really direct, I was basically among the first wave of people to really learn how to make a living from YouTube before people stopped really laughing at the idea. And now they pretty much just ask me how. These days, I am an educator, a strategist, an investor, and if I'm being really honest, a professional overthinker of how influence works. And I believe that it really is the force that runs the world and runs, I think business is a game, is a sport. And that is the magical key to a sport that is a combination of talent and drive, and it can be learned. I since sold the YouTube channel, became one of the first online subscription models for women's fitness, and then an equipment brand, and then a digital marketing agency that specialized in fitness and lifestyle brands. And I since have sold both of those companies and turned all that chaos into curriculum. And that led me to create the world's first accredited program in influencer marketing. So people think I teach how to be a Kardashian, and I'm okay with that. It's not what I teach. That's kind of driven my mission for using the word in itself. And I've been at very many different schools around the world with my curriculums at Northwestern, Kellogg School of Marketing, School of Business, and Marketing, University of Texas, UCLA, and now Rutgers and SMU. And today I advise brands. I host secret invite-only dinners that sound much fancier than they are. And I write about how trust, not followers, is the real currency of success. And a fun fact, I guess, is that before any of this, I was a competitive distance runner. That's actually how I came to the US. I actually am Canadian, and running was my plan, my identity, my future, the Olympics. And then I got injured, and my career was over just like that. So I had to do something I hadn't ever done before, which was start over with doing the things that I didn't even know. The one thing I really guess I thought I was talented at. And that's really, hindsight's always 2020. That's when I really learned the power of influence. When you're in a city like New York City and you lose every source of support, and you no longer have value in the eyes of others, and you have to make a support system, and you have to be seen and known and hired and prove that you're better than any American applying for the job, without any corporate work experience. That was terrifying. But had it not happened, I wouldn't have the career I have today. And it really is what led me to this subject and to this obsession really with influence and who has it and can you get it and how.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Like it's interesting what you said about New York, because also the kind of the time I had the big epiphany that ultimately led to the book Progressive Partnerships was when I moved to Thailand. And again, like lost all my support systems, all my connections were on the other side of the world, different time zone, different language. Like it just but it kind of it's when that gets taken away from you that you see the value of it, and you can start looking at things through freshness and reinvent yourself a little bit.
That's exactly. And I always wonder if it's a combination of two things. I think it's um the idea of starting over with nothing and having no ego. So you're not afraid to try anything or do anything.
Mm.
But also, like you said, the then having a safety net forces you to have to learn to jump to be
Yeah.
resourceful.
Yeah. So look, I'm really interested. There's a ton of ways this conversation could go, and I'm trying to keep it on topic. I mean, like one thing that maybe we should do another podcast in the future is you like touched on, you were one of the first people to come up with a revenue model off the back of the personal brand. So that when you had the subscription model, which is now very common, but it wasn't at the time. And it's one of the things that I talk about with this cares model, which I have with the inner circle, which is connections, authority, reach, uh, and connections, authority, reach, and equity. And equity is owning a piece of the action, because a lot of people look at influencers and they see the profile, and they think, well, yeah, if I get that, then everything sort of falls into place. But if you don't own something behind that, just fame on its own doesn't really deliver. But that's kind of not really the for today, but it is of interest. What I'm fascinated by is you took, well, I guess two things. Firstly, you took your learning, you flipped that into an educational piece, and you've gone and you've taught at lots of universities and people. You also fairly recently realized that the kind of the world has changed, and that you wanted to get back and actually, go beyond the theory and get back into the practice. So I'd love to know what you feel are kind of the differences between when you were first starting out as a fitness influencer and now building your brand and your personal brand around influence. As I guess it's more B2B rather than B2C, but what are some of the changes that you've noticed? And then we'll kind of get into the strategy stuff.
Well, first of all, the I say being in New York and doing all these other things was terrifying. And I think, intellectually or ego wise, I think the hardest thing I did was to go and start a YouTube channel again. In just as of March or April this past year. And the reason for that, I think a lot of people can resonate with this, and this is actually why I did it. I did a YouTube video on this, was because I had come on paper, according to like traditional careers, far. I was teaching at the top schools in the world and had written a book and was consulting for major companies. And I thought, oh my gosh, to do a YouTube channel, like just looks like I'm desperate and looks like I don't have a real job or work or whatever. And yet I was teaching this stuff in real time and consulting on it and realizing even if you did it a year ago and you're not actively doing it, you're extinct. It changed the fast if you're not actively doing it. So it wasn't even that I really wanted to create a following. If this is more like I need to learn what works, what doesn't. I can teach theory, my theoretical day long, but it's no longer applicable. What are they actually dealing with? And then it's changed so much with the use of AI. And I was like, the Substack, all the new things that have come out. I'm like, okay, I need to just dive in and get over my own self and what people are going to think. And so I did it, and I even made it, I even did something, I took it a little, even I did a party, a launch party. They used to do launch parties for books. I did a launch party of my YouTube channel during South by
Right.
Southwest at a very fancy members club where there's founders of some of the big companies that you and I heard of. And I invited all the keynote speakers from South by and all the members. And that was terrifying because if you, I knew looking around the room, these people are like, okay, did she's wanted, like, did she gonna tell us that she put out a motion picture and it's about to win an Oscar, or she's invented a new version of SpaceX, or no, a YouTube anyone that your old nephew could do.
Yeah.
I talked that, and I have to say, Calum, the feedback on it was incredible because I think there was such a humility for everyone in the audience, like such a resonation of people being like cathartic, like you're right. I feel like that too. Like it's
Mm,
kind of, you're like, I'm paper, I'm a CEO, I'm a this, I'm a that. I don't just feels like icky.
mm.
And it's like if you don't lean into, if you don't do it, you don't know. So I did that. And within just a few months, I learned very, very quickly. My entire thesis, I shouldn't say thesis, that sounds very academic. My entire concept around building content and building a community today is very, very different than it was. That it's almost come full circle, I think, to history in terms of how things work. But right away, I thought, wow, there's no way that my channel today could have been built. It can still be built, but it definitely wouldn't have been built the same way back then, where it was all about good quality, meaning you can hear and see content, and consistency and engaging with the followers. And that's what they tell you, they continue to tell you, if you take any of these online courses or whatever. And quickly I was like, no, that's not enough. That is not enough. These algorithms are not built for that. They are advertising platforms unless you have a massive budget, that you are not going to, unless, and everyone likes to point to the exception, which is the ones that go viral. But it's not about your quality content and being consistent. There is a ton of quality content that is very consistent, and it's still not getting the traction because the algorithm's not built that way unless you're spending a lot of money to get it out there.
Yeah.
So that was a real learn. That was a real takeaway. That being said, I don't think I can't do it. I just think now I'm doing it different. I'm teaching it, I'm doing it differently, and it's helping me with an entirely new curriculum.
Yeah, yeah. So I think what you described is exactly right. Yeah, a lot of the people that we work with, if they're looking to start their board careers, learn within their company. So they've spent 20 years with a company or within an industry. They're quite well known within that. They know the key people. And then yeah, it feels icky. It feels awkward to then go out. And how do you recommend? Because I know you deal with a lot of executives that probably also wrestle with this. So how did you? I know we got over it. How did you get over it? How do you recommend other people get comfortable with putting themselves out there? Before we continue, if you're interested in becoming a board member, even if you have very little experience, there's an opportunity for you to join a board, learn how to be a great board member, earn secondary incomes from that. If you're interested, go to veblendirectors.com right now and sign up for our next masterclass. Now back to the video.
So it's never going to be easy to put yourself out there. I don't think for anybody it is, unless you're, there's a few that love that. But if you are a business person, if you have ambition, I think you have to reframe your mind. If you have ambition and you want to be successful, it is just like working hard is not enough. You can work hard in your own silo all day long, but if nobody knows, it doesn't matter. And now, whether you like it or not, people are calling it a personal brand now. It's your reputation. It's your modern day reputation. If you have, every single one of us, we can cringe all day long, but every single one of us has a personal brand. It's what people think of when they think of you. Do they open your email when they see your name in your inbox? Do they hire you? Do they think of you when they think of something that you're an expert on? So you already have it. By choosing not to build it and nurture it, you're letting you're letting the market decide, and they're not going to just all of a sudden prop you up as an expert. And so to reframe your mind, especially if you're an ambitious person that does like to put themselves out there, reframe it as you're just lazy if you don't take control of your personal life. Honestly, because it's work and it's psychologically it's work because you have to get over yourself and you have to be okay with being embarrassed and okay with as long as you're not this is not the same thing as walking into a cocktail party and introducing yourself and telling someone about all your accolades at all. Creating value about what you do that's going to solve people's problems is different than you show them how you're valuable. Don't talk about it.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were struggling with this, and one of the sort of, I guess, switches for me that made a real difference was when I was looking, excuse me, when I was looking to put content out, and I was going through that internal monologue of this isn't good enough, who am I to do this? What I realized, I was looking at my heroes and I was looking at the content that they were putting out, and I was thinking, my stuff isn't good enough to
The
be
worst thing you can do.
yeah, absolutely. And it was basically when I found myself an avatar that I was actually talking to, and it was basically me 10 years ago. It was somebody just coming into the industry, someone just becoming an entrepreneur. What are the things that I could share with them? And then I didn't need to be as impressive as these top people. And then it could just be like, well, okay, if somebody had told me this, that would have been really useful. And when I started doing content for that sort of switch made life a lot easier for me.
That's interesting. That's a great switch, and that's okay. You could do that. I remember when I was starting, not remember, this is very recently when I started doing the YouTube show. I know that I'm comfortable on camera only because of my past doing jumping jacks on a camera.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, when I started doing the same content that I just more mainstream, but pulling some anecdotes from lecture stuff that I've lectured on that I know really well in and out, for whatever reason, I would freeze. And then I would script it and then I would lose all, I would sound like look and sound like a robot. And I thought, oh, how am I going to do this? And how I got over it was I hired a former student as an assistant to literally sit behind the camera and ask questions that came up a lot in classes and whatnot.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. So I've been having the same thing with AI for the last couple of years, which is trying to use AI to produce content, and it's just never good enough. And I was getting really frustrated. I was like feeding in all my books and going, just use my voice to say this, and it wasn't working. And then I finally twigged a while ago, if I get AI to ask me a question and I just voice answer that question and then tell it to tidy it up and put it into a blog post with the format that I use, like a hook, a story, a question, it gets it 90% of the way there because it literally is using my voice. And it's very easy for me to do a 2-minute answer. Then it does, and then I can tidy that up.
Wait, sorry to interrupt, what do you mean by like you give it asks you questions? How do you prompt it to ask you questions?
So I have a prompt which is going to go through my ecosystem of stuff and then ask me a question. So it might ask me a question on what's a key learning about hiring people that you've got. And then what I'll do is I literally every morning on the walk to the gym, which is like I go boxing gym, it's 10-minute walk there, 10-minute walk back, and I will do 3 or 4 of these questions. And I'm not thinking, I haven't pre-thought them. So if I was recording them for an audience, it would be horrible. It'd be full of me going, actually, no, stop that. Right. But AI is really good at taking that and then just pulling out the key bits. And then, yeah, I come back in the morning and I've got 5 or 6 blogs that are really decent quality. So, but yeah, same concept is like find these little hacks that if you
That's
need
great.
sitting
You know
behind
what?
you.
And I have another little like just as I've learned going back into the business of doing the content flywheel using AI, and I was like, gosh, maybe this is a service now. But I created and I created different variations of a bot in my
Mhm.
voice. And you're right, it's not you upload all your sources and whatever. It doesn't necessarily do that. But I fought with it for, gosh, I can't imagine how many hours now to test it on like how I was going to get there. And you can actually it's extremely time consuming and extensive, but setting it up, it's almost 100% there. I've created like leader frameworks and whatever that's like, never use phrases like X like this, like, and there's so many ethical guidelines, community guidelines, and memo guidelines, and then as samples of so much stuff, like even from syllabuses to talks to emails, tons of emails that I've written to people in different scenarios. And I'm not kidding. It's starting to get, I'm like, God, I would, this is a service. I
Yeah.
don't know if I would fully trust anyone to do it, but I was like, this is, if you could, and they could really,
Mm.
I think somebody in marketing or branding that understands this would know how to pull out personal information. But I'm telling you, I've spent too many weekends now holed in the public library, just like in down these rabbit holes, creating these bots.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, back to influence. So I know, like, both of us are very big believers in sort of longer term relationships and building trust, not sort of, and you've written about this not being transactional, but yeah, thinking in terms of relationships. So what's some of the advice that you're giving the executives that you've been working with over the last 10 years or so? And has any of it changed now that you've sort of come back in this? What are your thoughts on that
In
space?
terms of building trust, I don't, I'm trying to think of how to best, I think one area that I see one of the biggest misconceptions is that corporations, executives, thought leaders, people are confusing attention with influence. And
Hmm.
that is where the trust component comes in, is people don't want to follow or they don't even like people they don't trust. So that component, I think that's actually, so when you say, how do you explain it to build trust, I think it's actually, let's define what you want to achieve first. And
Hmm.
oftentimes it's, they want influence, and they call it different things, success, they want the corner office, they want to pitch, they want a seed round of XXX. What they really want is to be able to influence their audience to get that.
Yeah.
However, they then measure that on awareness, and those are not the same thing. It's like saying I want to run 26.2 miles and come back and be like, I just drove the whole course. It was awesome. Did all 26.2 miles. And it's like, that's great, but that's not the same. You're measuring
Yeah.
something totally different. And I think exactly what happens with influence is to come back to, I think the best piece of advice that I won't say advice. I don't like it sounds like I'm the all-knowing and I'm not. But the best for me breakthrough was in trying to figure out like what it was that I was trying to get to explain that I felt like was so like aha for me. And it was the fact that I'm not really chasing attention. I'm not really just chasing the praise on this or to win this company or to whatever. What I'm really chasing here is how to influence the audience. And that's different than persuasion. And I think that gets really confused. There's even books on like influence and persuasion. And influence, this was explained to me or I read this, I think, somewhere, and I wish I could remember where because I haven't been able to find it, but that the root of how the term influence came was something about a river flowing in one direction, and
Hmm.
influence is the ability to be at the end, like the magnet of where the river is already flowing. Whereas persuasion is more like building a dam, trying to go against the grain. It's like advertising, persuading, but
Right.
it's not natural. So influence is understanding the mind of the audience and really what's in their best interest, or really what's going to mutually motivate them. And so then they're in it for the long haul. And that's where the trust component comes in, because if you are persuading, you're not going to have trust. Influence is a much longer infrastructure. It's like building a house versus pitching a tent. You got to build the infrastructure. If you're
Mm.
looking for like quick wins and short-term results in a quarter, it's probably not for you, because it takes a hell of a lot longer. And if you think about the best relationships that you have, it's not because you immediately tried to sell something or get something from that person. It's the people you could call and get something right away are the ones that you have a long-term trust built relationship. And so that's
Yeah.
what you have to build. It's why a networking event on its own is like cringy because everybody's just there trying to like, what can you do for me?
Still,
Yeah.
yeah. So do you have, so when you're working with executives and they're saying, okay, look, I want to build more influence, I want to get some more exposure, I want to have, yeah, it be a bigger part in the conversation. Do you sort of have some frameworks or some steps that what's your advice to somebody that's okay, this is something I need to bite the bullet and get into?
Yes. So I come from a distance running background, so I'm extremely goal and milestone oriented. And to just say success doesn't really lead for me to anything. So I have to get prescriptive almost. And even knowing that your goal, to me, a goal is like a business plan. It's probably going to change, but it has to start. Like it's like everything's the Wild West and everything can be overwhelming. What you need to start with is at hand, what do you want to achieve? What is actually the goal? And not be successful. What does success mean to you? What are some tangible things that are a success? What are those things? And then what is the ecosystem of those things? What needs to happen for that to be achieved? Well, that ecosystem of what needs to happen is by nature of understanding that you are touching all the influencers. So the influencers can be a company like Google. It can be getting a book club sticker like Oprah's book club. It's having voters vote a certain direction, whatever. But those are there. It's not just one person, one content creator. It's all the touch points that are gonna could help influence that decision or that behavior. And
Right.
then the nuance between persuasion and influence is observing, understanding, really investing in that audience, those forces of what is really going to motivate them on this decision at hand, on this action or this thought at hand. And that's when you start to develop strategy. And that's when I always say, like, people want to do things really fast. To do it long term, to really do it well, it takes more time. It's not a quick one-off, and we struggle with that in society. I'm an extremely impatient person too, probably of the most. But having seen, we do you want to build a thousand tents and they keep blowing out and blowing away in every storm, or do you want to build a really great house? If so, you need to slow the heck down and really build that house, understanding the long-term vision. And of course, you put milestones along the way. So you're not just like, going off 26 miles in the wrong direction, or you're training for the Olympics and you're still running a 7-minute mile by, 3 months before. I mean, good luck. So you need to really have those milestones lined up so that you know when to pivot as well.
Cool. All right. Look, I'm conscious of time, but sort of, I'd love to know. You mentioned that sort of things have changed, the algorithms have changed, some things have come back to the beginning. What are some of the things that you've learned since you've been back in this game, like actually feet on the ground, that are different, or that you can help other people to perhaps avoid some mistakes?
Well, first of all, the barrier to entry is so much lower. It's so much more efficient. You have to take the time to just learn the tools, but you don't need to hire editors, or you don't even need to learn to edit. AI can do all of that.
Mm.
It's almost like mind numbing how easy it is, or to build a subscription model, not that the conversion rate of that's another issue. But if you just try to build a subscription model now, you just like basically creating an email.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
so easy. I keep like, oh God, I wish that was that way. But also in terms of, I made a comment in the beginning about how I would do it very differently. Building an audience is not the same because of advertising. So don't let that deflate you, because I actually think my next thought about this was to build, if you are trying to build a real cult style loyal audience, rather than just consistent content and just curating and creating and creating and hoping something is going to stick. I think you really curate a small audience, whether it's colleagues, whether it's clients that you've worked with that love your work, whether it's friends and family, but you get and you cater to them, and you don't make content for everyone. You put it out there for everyone, but you make it for them,
Mhm.
and they become your marketing army. They become your loyalists, and
The
then
thousand true fans theory, isn't it?
yeah, there we go. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't thought about that way.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, there's another piece on content that I find quite interesting, and I learned this from the marketing director of Amex. And we were having a conversation. We were talking at the time we were having a conversation. Dove's campaign about natural beauty had just become one of the most watched videos on YouTube, or the most watched advertisement on YouTube. And we were talking about it, and he said, "Yeah, but they put a lot of money behind that." And so I was talking about individual content creators versus what these big companies do. And he said, well, look, the difference is if Amex does an advert, we might spend 10% of the budget on the production of the advert, like the actors, the film, the set, all that stuff. And 90% of the budget goes on amplification, getting it in front of the right people and repeating it. And he says, I see you creators, you individuals, and you'll spend like 2-3 hours on a blog post. You'll put it out there, and then you move on to the next blog post. That doesn't make any sense. You can reuse
That's
the
so
content.
encouraging. You just nailed it. He nails it. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
God. But kind of what I'm saying, exactly what I'm saying in very different ways, but you just, the platforms aren't meant, unless you have a ton of money to spend on amplification, then
mm,
you can do it by yourself, but it's going to be a totally different method to do it.
yeah,
But the cost, I've got a really good friend who teaches digital advertising and has a digital advertising company at UCLA. And I asked him about how much minimum spend and monthly minimum spend and for how long. And he said, minimum spend to even like make a blip, really, you need to be going for at least 9 to 12 months at least 150 to 200 grand a month.
yeah.
So good
So,
luck for the individual.
stick to 1,000 true fans. Exactly. Um, cool. So look, I think just bringing it back down to, so if somebody's sitting on the fence, they're thinking about this. You're absolutely right. The barriers to entry now they're gone. Anyone can pick up their phone, video something, and get it out there. So what sort of last tips or bits of advice for anyone thinking about doing this? And then how do they get in touch with you? What's your YouTube channel? What's your book? How do they get hold of that?
Thank you. So I think that if somebody's sitting here today, it's not that I don't think that everyone has to become a YouTuber or a creator or whatnot, but I think number one, start with Google yourself, see what you find. Yes or no, are you happy with it? If you're happy with me, you're like, great, all I need. If you're otherwise, what can you do to change that? And I shouldn't say and are you getting what you want in work right now? Are you getting the spots? Are you getting the clients? If not, because not every industry is different too. And I think so the best answer is it depends. Look at what do you want? Are you there? Check your what's happening online. Does that match? Also ask, this is a great one. Ask in a non-biased way, give them, just say, what are things I can improve on, to like a few different colleagues, maybe people that know you, but like a neighbor that doesn't really know what you do. What kind of feedback are you getting? That's your brand right there. And
Mm,
then where do you want to be? And then does that mean, okay, well, clearly they don't even know that I have a job. So, start there. And then I think then you develop a strategy. I think knowing what you're working with right now is very where you start. And while you don't have to become a content creator, your industry is going to tell you a million different ways that you can be known within that industry. Whether it's joining, the association of X engineering or whatever it is, volunteering, like that. Maybe you're more local. Maybe your audience is more local. Maybe that's more in person. Maybe it is content ad creating value, going on to special private forums and answering questions and just giving great advice and having your
yeah,
title, your
that's true.
contact info.
Yeah.
And then where can you find me? So my website, it just goes right. If you go to the contact form, it goes right to my email. So it's just amandarussell.co. And I'm on LinkedIn. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/Amanda Russell with 2 S's and 2 L's.
Easy. Well, look, I think it's great that you've gone from packaging up everything you learned and helping in the academic world, and then going from, okay, all this theory, I now need to get into the practical. So it's great seeing you back out there and building your channel and your presence again, and sharing everything that you've learned. I think that's awesome. So yeah, give Amanda a like and a funnel. Amanda, she's also available on LinkedIn, so follow her there, ask her any questions in the chat. I'm sure she'll get back to you. But yeah, thank you very much. It's great. And I look forward to learning more from you over time as well.
Thank you so much for having me, Callum.
Pleasure. Thanks for watching. My name is Callum Laing. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been doing this for about 25 years. I've taken about 100 companies public. I now run a $100 million fund. I continue to take companies public. I've written 4 best-selling books on different business topics, and I run a bunch of courses and programs to help people like you to get ahead. People that are typically find themselves or feel like they're on the outside and they want to hack access to the inside. And I've been lucky enough to work with hundreds or thousands of people now at this point and get them ahead of where they think they could be. So we've got things like a 10-day free email course, which is called Career Accelerator. So if you're right at the beginning of your role, if you're looking to build your media exposure, we've got programs for that. If you want to build your board career, we have a very successful program called the Veblen Director Program, where you can get on the first board seat. If you're interested in capital raising, we've got Guild Members, which is all about how to raise capital, and it's a great global network of capital introducers. We also have Unity Group, which is where I spend most of my time, which if you are a small business owner, that you're profitable, you're well established, and you want to use the capital markets to scale, please come and talk to me there. If you're an investor, we have some very unique products that allow you to get maximum capital appreciation and also high yield products there as well. So hopefully I've covered wherever you are in your journey. I'd love to hear from you. Like, subscribe, do all of those kind of things. Also follow me on LinkedIn for more regular updates. And thank you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments.